Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures where humanity always rises. The hospital ship Mercy Dawn moved quietly through the cold darkness of deep space. It was a large white vessel with bright blue medical symbols painted on its sides, a clear sign to everyone that it carried no weapons and no soldiers. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was calm, soft, and peaceful. Doctors walked through the halls checking on patients. Nurses whispered softly as they helped injured soldiers, children, and civilians recover from the last border conflict. Every corner of the ship smelled clean, almost like fresh air after a rainstorm. The Mercy Dawn was not built for war. It was built for healing. Captain Elara Grant stood on the bridge, watching the stars drift past the wide viewing window. She had led many missions, but she liked these medical assignments the most. Saving lives was easier on the soul than taking lives. She touched the collar of her uniform and gave a small smile as she listened to the soft hum of the engines. Everything felt peaceful. Too peaceful. The ship's radar officer, Lieutenant Harris, stared at his screen with a confused expression. He gently tapped the display, thinking it might be a glitch. "Captain, something strange here," he said. Elara turned her head. "What is it?" Harris swallowed. "I don't know. A shadow. Something moving, but I can't lock onto it. It disappears every time the system tries to track it." Elara walked closer to the radar panel. The signal blinked once, like a heartbeat, then vanished completely. "Is it a ship?" she asked. "Not sure, ma'am. But it's big." The lights flickered for a brief moment. Just a quick blink. Not enough to cause panic, but enough to create whispers among the crew. Nurse Reva, carrying medical supplies, paused and looked up at the ceiling. "That's strange," she murmured. "We just checked the power systems this morning." In the children's ward, a small boy named Kalen held his blanket tightly. He felt the flicker through the floor, like the ship itself shivered for a moment. He asked the nearest nurse, "Is something wrong?" The nurse smiled to comfort him. "No, sweetie. It's just space being space." But even she didn't fully believe her own words. Back on the bridge, the lights flickered again. This time they dimmed longer, and the ship's hum dropped to a lower, heavier tone. The communications officer, Maya, leaned over her console. "Captain, I'm receiving a signal, but it's broken. I can't understand it." "Put it on speaker," Elara ordered. A faint voice came through the speakers, weak and trembling. "Help, closer, run, please," then silence. The entire bridge crew froze. Elara felt a cold chill run down her neck. "Try to trace it," she said. Maya's fingers flew across the controls. "Trying, but the source is close, Captain. Very close." Lieutenant Harris suddenly stepped back from the radar screen. His voice shook. "Captain, the shadow is back." Before Elara could respond, the ship trembled violently, as if something large passed too close. Medical equipment rattled in the lower decks. A few injured soldiers woke up abruptly, confused and alarmed. Dr. Kean in the surgical room gripped the table to stay steady. "What the hell was that?" he whispered. The bridge lights dimmed again, this time staying dark for several seconds before returning. The air felt heavier. Maya's screen turned black, then flashed red. "Captain," she shouted. "I lost communications. Something is jamming us." Harris yelled, "New contact, right in front of us." Elara rushed to the viewing window. At first she saw only darkness. A deep, endless, starless void. Then something massive emerged from that darkness, as if it had been waiting there the whole time. A giant alien warship slowly revealed itself. It was shaped like a jagged blade, covered in glowing red symbols. Its hull was black, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. It looked like a predator, a creature made of metal and hate. And worst of all, it was completely silent. No warning lights. No greeting signal. No attempt to communicate. Just cold, deadly presence. They're blocking our path, Maya whispered, her voice cracking. Elara felt her heart pounding. Send a medical identification broadcast. Let them know we are a hospital ship. Maya tried, but her console only sparked. I can't. They're still jamming us. Harris stared wide-eyed at the radar. Captain, they are charging weapons. The entire bridge went silent. A hospital ship. Unarmed. Carrying children, doctors, wounded people. Why would anyone target it? Elara took a breath and whispered, why are they doing this? As if the alien ship heard her question, a bright red glow formed underneath its hull. Energy built up, bright and violent. The Mercy Dawn shook harder as the alien ship aimed directly at them. Elara shouted, brace for impact. The sound of terrified screams echoed through the medical decks. The children cried, doctors grabbed patients, nurses secured equipment. The entire ship felt like it was holding its breath. And then, a blinding flash of red light filled the viewing window. The first alien shot hit the Mercy Dawn with brutal force. The peaceful hospital ship, built for healing, entered a nightmare that no one on board was prepared for. The first alien blast tore through the Mercy Dawn like a knife cutting through thin paper. The peaceful hospital ship shook so violently that many people were thrown to the floor. Emergency lights flashed red across all hallways as smoke filled the air. Patients who had been resting moments earlier woke up in terror, grabbing the edges of their beds as the entire ship groaned under the force of the attack. Captain Elara Grant tried to hold on to the control console as the bridge shook again. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Damage report, she shouted, her voice barely steady. Lieutenant Harris checked his panel with frantic eyes. Main engine hit. Deck 7 is on fire. Power systems dropping fast. Another explosion rocked the ship, this one even closer. A medical supply room burst open, sending containers rolling through the corridor. Nurses rushed to block falling equipment so the injured wouldn't get crushed. Dr. Kean yelled for help as he tried to move a patient whose bed had snapped loose from the floor. We need stability. We can't treat anyone like this, he shouted, but everyone knew stability was impossible now. Maya on the bridge kept trying to send a distress signal, but every time she pressed the command, the screen turned black again. They're blocking everything. No one can hear us, she said with fear in her voice. Elara's hands shook, but her eyes stayed focused on the alien warship outside. It moved slowly, like a predator circling its prey. It fired again. The shot ripped through the lower decks. A violent blast of heat and pressure broke open doors and sent metal shards flying down the hallways. Several crew members were knocked unconscious instantly. We are a hospital ship. Elara shouted at the viewing window, even though she knew the aliens could not hear her, or did not care. Below deck, little Kalen clung to his blanket, crying as the ship shook again. A nurse lifted him into her arms and tried to calm him. Hold on to me. Don't let go, she whispered as she ran with him away from a collapsing ceiling. Everywhere she turned, there were flames, broken lights, and screaming patients. Soldiers who were too injured to walk begged for help. Nurses tried desperately to push wheelchairs through the thick smoke. In the surgical room, Dr. Kean covered a wounded soldier with his own body as an overhead beam fell and smashed the operating table beside them. We can't take another hit like that, he whispered. But the attacks continued. On the bridge, Harris spoke in a voice full of dread. Captain, the aliens are not targeting weapons, they're hitting medical areas on purpose. Elara felt the words hit her like a punch. That makes no sense. Why attack the helpless? Maya shook her head. Maybe they want to start a war, she said softly. Before anyone could answer, the ship trembled again. A massive explosion tore through the Mercy Dawn's main spine. The lights flickered weakly, then stabilized just enough for the crew to see the damage. Captain, Harris said quietly, we've lost half the ship. Elara felt her heart break. The Mercy Dawn had hundreds of people on board, families, workers, children. And now half of them might already be gone. She forced herself to stand straight. Get damage control teams to the lower decks. Save whoever you can. But the moment those words left her mouth, an alarm screamed across the bridge. Maya looked up with wide eyes filled with horror. Captain, they're preparing to board us. Elara froze. Board us? But why? Harris answered, his voice low and fearful. They're not trying to destroy us, they want something. In the lower decks, a loud metallic thud echoed through the corridors. Then another. And another. The sound of claws or tools cutting into the hull. A circular section of the wall began to glow red as something on the other side burned through the metal. Nurses grabbed patients and ran. Soldiers too injured to walk begged not to be left behind. The circular metal piece finally broke loose and fell inward with a loud clang. Smoke billowed through the hot opening. Then the aliens stepped inside. Their bodies were tall and armored, with dark helmets hiding their faces. They moved fast and without hesitation. One alien grabbed a nurse and threw her aside like she weighed nothing. Another shot a medic who tried to shield two patients. Screams filled the air as the aliens marched deeper into the ship. On the bridge, the crew heard the screams through the comm channels. Elara felt her stomach twist. We have to seal the decks, she ordered. We can't let them reach the main core. But it was too late. The aliens spread through the ship like a deadly wave. The medical crew fought to protect the patients, but they were no match. The Mercy Dawn, once a safe place of healing, had turned into a battlefield. An explosion from the aft section threw Elara to the ground. Smoke filled the bridge as a console blew apart. Maya cried out, clutching her burned arm. Harris tried to keep the radar online, but the system sparked violently. Elara forced herself up, coughing. She looked at the burning screen, the collapsing ceiling, the terrified faces of her crew. We have to send one last message, she said. Even if only one word gets through. Maya nodded. She tried again and again, pushing through the pain. Static. More static. Then, her console flickered. Captain. I think I got one signal out, she whispered. Not full message, but something. Elara closed her eyes. Good. Anything is better than silence. But the alien warship outside charged its weapons again, preparing the final blow. And the Mercy Dawn, broken and bleeding, had nothing left to defend itself. Deep inside Earth Command Headquarters, alarms suddenly lit up across the main communication center. Dozens of officers turned toward the large holographic screen as a broken signal appeared, full of static and distortion. The room, normally filled with calm voices, fell completely silent. Commander Rylan Torres, head of the United Earth Defense Network, walked forward with a serious expression. His tall figure and sharp eyes made everyone straighten their backs as he approached the console. What are we looking at? He asked. The communication officer, a young woman named Leora, swallowed nervously. Sir, we intercepted a distress signal from the Mercy Dawn. Rylan froze. The hospital ship? Leora nodded. Yes, sir. But the message is damaged. It's barely readable. She pressed a button, and the message played across the room. A weak, trembling voice filled the air. Attack. We are medical ship. They are boarding. Please, then silence. Many officers stared at each other in shock. A hospital ship? Under attack? Another officer, Jace, leaned over his console. Sir, I tried to trace the location. The signal came from Sector 9, but it faded too quickly. Something was jamming it. Rylan felt a cold pressure in his chest. Hospital ships were protected under every interstellar law. They were sacred spaces of healing. Even enemies respected them. For someone to attack the Mercy Dawn, it was a crime beyond anything he had seen. Get visuals, Rylan ordered. I want eyes on that ship. Leora worked fast, pulling up the nearest satellite feeds. After a few seconds, a damaged image appeared, the Mercy Dawn drifting in darkness, half of it burning, pieces of its hull floating away. The sight hit the entire room with the force of a punch. Officers gasped. Some covered their mouths. A doctor standing at the back quietly whispered, "My sister was serving on that ship." Ryland's hands tightened into fists. "Is there any sign of survivors?" Jace shook his head. "We don't know yet. Life support is still faintly active, but internal systems are failing. We can't get inside communication. It might already be too late." Ryland stared at the broken ship on the screen. Flames flickered through its windows. Smoke spilled from its damaged spine. If even one child, one doctor, one patient was hurt, Earth would demand justice. Suddenly, Leora's screen beeped. "Sir, I'm picking up a faint energy signature, alien in origin." Ryland turned sharply. "Which species?" "Unknown," she replied. "But it matches no peaceful race. Whoever did this came prepared." Ryland's voice grew dark. "And they chose a hospital ship?" Jace spoke quietly. "Sir, this wasn't an accident. Someone attacked them on purpose." The room grew colder. Ryland stepped back, his expression hardening. Earth had suffered losses before, but this was something deeper. An attack on a medical vessel meant only one thing: the enemy wanted to send a message. And they expected Earth to stay quiet. They expected humans to bow. They expected fear. But they did not understand humanity at all. Ryland turned toward the central command table and activated the emergency protocol. Red lights glowed as the holographic map expanded across the room. "Prepare Iron Wave Fleet for immediate launch," he said, his voice strong and cold. "Full combat readiness. No delays." Officers rushed into action. The floor vibrated as heavy shields activated around the base. Pilots sprinted down corridors. Engineers loaded weapons and fuel. Across Earth, families looked up at the sky, seeing the warning lights from the orbital stations. Something terrible had happened. Something that would change everything. Meanwhile, Ryland opened a secure channel to the High Council. Their holograms appeared, 12 leaders, each representing a major human colony. Counselor Marith, an older woman with firm eyes, spoke first. "Commander Torres, why was an emergency meeting called?" Ryland played the Mercy Dawn image for them. Gasps filled the chamber. "The hospital ship was attacked," Ryland said. "No provocation. No warning. The enemy boarded them." Another counselor, a tall man with silver hair, leaned forward. "A hospital ship? That's impossible." "No one would dare." "Someone did," Ryland cut in. "And we believe there are no immediate survivors." This was a message. The room grew silent. A cold, angry silence. Counselor Marith spoke again. "Do we know who did this?" "Not yet," Ryland said. "But when we find them, Earth will respond." Marith nodded slowly. "Then Earth must show strength. You have full authorization. Do whatever is necessary." Ryland bowed his head once. "Thank you." The council disappeared. Ryland turned back to the communication center. "Send a notice to all colonies," he ordered. "Prepare for defense. And send a message to every human outpost: we are not afraid." Leora looked up. "Sir, what should we tell them?" Ryland stared at the burning image of the Mercy Dawn. "Tell them the truth," he said quietly. "Humanity is under attack." At that moment, deep space scanners beeped again. This time, Leora's eyes widened. "Commander, I found something else." Ryland approached her console. "What is it?" Leora pointed at a tiny blinking beside the Mercy Dawn. An escape pod, drifting. Very weak life signs. But someone is alive. Ryland's eyes sharpened. "Get a rescue team out there. Now. Because if even one survivor could speak, Earth would know exactly who did this, and why. And then humanity's retaliation would begin." The rescue ship Arrow Wing moved toward the broken Mercy Dawn like a small spark of hope drifting through the dark void. Its engines glowed softly as it approached the escape pod that Leora had detected. The pod was spinning slowly, its metal surface scorched and cracked, barely holding together. Inside, life signs were weak, almost invisible, but still there. Commander Rylan Torres watched from Earth Command through the live feed, his expression tight with worry. "Be gentle," he ordered the rescue team. "If there is even one survivor, we need them alive." The arrow wing extended a magnetic claw and carefully locked onto the pod. The moment contact was made, the pod's warning alarm began to scream, showing that its oxygen levels were dropping fast. "Pull them in." Quickly, the rescue captain shouted. The pod was dragged into the ship's medical bay, and doctors rushed forward. They forced open the hatch, releasing a burst of smoke and cold air. Inside, lying curled up and barely conscious, was a young medical technician from the Mercy Dawn named Sarah Dolan. Her face was pale, and her uniform was torn and burned. She coughed weakly when the fresh air touched her lungs. "She's alive," one of the medics cried, and they quickly placed her on a stretcher, hooking her up to oxygen. The moment Earth Command heard those words, the entire room breathed out in relief. Rylan stepped closer to the screen. "Stabilize her. We need answers." Hours passed before Sarah finally opened her eyes in the Arrow Wings care unit. She looked confused, afraid, trembling as if she still heard explosions in her mind. A soft-spoken doctor tried to calm her. "You're safe now. You were rescued. Can you hear me?" Sarah blinked a few times, struggling to understand where she was. "The Mercy Dawn, where is it?" she whispered. The doctor exchanged a sad look with the nearby officer. "We found what is left of it," he said softly. "You were the only life sign detected." Sarah's eyes widened with pain and disbelief. Tears welled up instantly. "They're all gone," she whispered. "Captain Alara, the children's wing, the nurses, all of them?" The doctor placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We don't know everything yet. But you survived. And we need to know what happened." Sarah closed her eyes as memories crashed back into her mind like a flood. The screams. The explosions. The alien soldiers storming through the halls. The burning metal and the broken bodies. She shivered violently, as if the cold of space had followed her. "They didn't want to destroy us," she said slowly, her voice breaking. "They wanted to send a message." On Earth, Rylan listened carefully as the transmission came through the speakers. His jaw tightened. "Sarah, who attacked you? Did you see them?" Sarah nodded weakly. "They wore black armor, tall, fast, no faces. They didn't talk. They shot anyone who moved. They didn't stop." Her voice cracked. "They killed the injured first. They knew exactly where the medical wards were. They walked straight to them. They were not random attackers. They knew our layout." Rylan's stomach turned. "So they steadied the Mercy Dawn beforehand." Sarah nodded again. "And they cut the engines on purpose. They wanted the ship to be helpless." The rescue doctor helped her sit up slightly. "Do you remember anything else?" Sarah stared at the ceiling for a long moment, trying to force her mind past the fear. Then she whispered, "Yes. There was someone, an alien officer, I think. He said something before they left." Rylan leaned closer to the screen. "What did he say?" Sarah swallowed hard. "He said, 'Let this be your warning. Humanity has grown too bold.'" The room around Rylan fell silent. Officers exchanged shocked looks. A warning. A deliberate message. An attack meant to provoke fear and chaos. Rylan breathed out slowly. "Do you know which alien empire they came from?" Sarah shook her head. "No, but their armor had markings. Red symbols, like claws. I've never seen them before." Leora immediately began searching the database for any matching insignia, but nothing came up. "Sir," she said quietly, "these markings don't belong to any known species. Whoever they are, they stayed hidden until now. Rylan stared at the floor for a moment, thinking deeply. A hidden enemy. A secret faction. And they chose a medical ship as their first strike. Why? Sarah, he said gently, why do you think they spared you? Sarah looked at him with haunted eyes. Because they wanted someone to tell the story. Her voice trembled. They wanted Earth to know what they did. They wanted fear. Ryland felt something hot rise in his chest, anger, sharp and unforgiving. Fear, he said. They think they can scare us by attacking a hospital ship? Sarah closed her eyes again. They think humans will panic. They think we will back down. But Ryland shook his head. They don't understand us. He turned to his officers, his voice now hard as steel. Prepare the Iron Wave fleet. Humanity does not run. Meanwhile, Sarah grabbed the doctor's hand. Please, she whispered, make them pay. Make sure no one forgets what happened. Rylan heard the words through the comm feed, and he made a silent promise to her, to the Mercy Dawn, and to every innocent life lost. Humanity would not forget. And humanity would not forgive. The Iron Wave fleet prepared for launch with a level of silence that felt heavier than thunder. Every soldier, every pilot, every engineer moved with the same emotion burning inside them, anger mixed with cold determination. They had all heard what happened to the Mercy Dawn. Some had friends on that ship. Some had family. And some, like Commander Rylan Torres, simply could not accept that such an attack would go unanswered. In the hangars of Earth Command, dozens of warships stood ready. Their dark metallic surfaces reflected the red warning lights that flashed across the walls. Heavy battle cruisers hummed with power as their engines warmed. Smaller fighters lined up in perfect formation, waiting like sharp arrows ready to be fired into the heart of the enemy. Rylan walked down the main platform, his boots echoing through the steel chamber. As he passed, the soldiers straightened automatically, but he did not acknowledge them. His mind was locked on one thing: justice for the Mercy Dawn. He stepped into the command ship, the Titan Spear, a massive vessel built for long-range war. Inside, officers stood at attention. Report, Rylan ordered. Admiral Kira Salas, his second-in-command, saluted. All ships ready for warp. Weapons fully charged. Shields at maximum. The fleet is waiting for your signal. Rylan nodded. Good. Once we leave orbit, we don't stop until we reach Sector 9. The officers exchanged nervous glances. Sector 9 was deep in the dark region of space where communication was unstable and navigation was dangerous, but it didn't matter. That was where the Mercy Dawn had been attacked. That was where the enemy was hiding. Rylan walked toward the holographic map at the center of the command room. It showed the broken image of the hospital ship, still drifting. He stared at it for a long moment. This is not just about one ship, he said. This is about every doctor, every child, every peaceful worker who trusted us to keep them safe. And we failed them. No one spoke. They only listened as their commander's voice grew stronger. We will not fail again. Iron Wave will strike fast, strike hard, and show the enemy exactly what humanity can do. With that, he turned to Kira. Send the launch command. Yes, sir. Kira pressed the control on her wrist pad. A deep rumble filled the massive hangar as doors opened and the fleet began to rise. Within minutes, the ships burst through Earth's atmosphere and into the cold silence of space. The Iron Wave fleet took formation, 27 heavy cruisers, 50 fighter squads, and the Titan Spear at the center like the heart of a beast ready to hunt. Rylan took his seat on the command bridge. Engage warp, he said calmly. A bright blue tunnel of light swallowed the fleet as they launched into faster-than-light travel. The stars stretched into long white lines, and the ships shot across the galaxy like arrows of fire. Hours later, they dropped out of warp near Sector 9. The moment normal space returned, alarms triggered on every ship. Commander, an officer said urgently, we are detecting alien outposts. Multiple signatures. They're scanning us. Rylan leaned forward. Do they recognize us? No, sir. But they're preparing shields. Rylan remembered Sarah's words. They wanted to send a message. Now Earth would send one back. Target the closest outpost, Rylan ordered. Lock missiles. Kira hesitated. Sir, should we give a warning? A chance to stand down? Rylan shook his head. His voice was cold. Did they give the Mercy Dawn a warning? The answer was silence. Fire. The first missile streaked across space, hitting the alien outpost with blinding force. The station exploded instantly, pieces scattering like burning sparks. The alien defenders tried to respond, but the Iron Wave fleet was too fast. The fighters swooped through the battlefield, firing precise shots that split the alien ships apart. Within minutes, the first outpost fell. The second followed shortly. On the Titan Spear, officers watched the battle unfold. Commander, one of them said, the aliens are sending a message. They're saying, why are humans attacking? Rylan's eyes narrowed. They wanted to hide behind confusion now? They dared to pretend innocence? He spoke clearly, send back one sentence, this is for the Mercy Dawn. The message was delivered. A quiet moment passed. Then all remaining alien bases opened fire at once. The battle intensified. Laser beams crisscrossed through the darkness. Explosions lit the space like fireworks. But the humans were fighting with the fury of a species that had lost something precious. They pushed forward until the last alien ship in the sector was destroyed. After the battlefield was full of drifting metal and smoke. The Iron Wave had won, but Rylan knew this was only the beginning. As the Titan Spear scanned the remains, one small alien pod was found. Inside was a captured alien officer, injured but alive. Rylan stared at him through the glass. This creature might have answers. Answers Earth needed. He stepped closer and said quietly, "You're going to tell me who ordered the attack." The alien turned its head, red eyes glowing behind its cracked helmet. And it spoke one chilling sentence, "You are already too late." The alien prisoner was taken to the Titan Spear's secure chamber, a cold metal room with bright white lights and heavy restraints built for the most dangerous captives. Commander Rylan stood outside the glass wall, watching the creature breathe in slow, strange rhythms. Its armor was cracked, its skin pale and stretched, and its eyes glowed with a deep red that seemed to watch everything at once. Rylan entered the room with 2 guards behind him. The air felt heavier when he stepped inside, as if the alien carried a silent pressure around itself. The creature lifted its head. "Human," it said in a voice that sounded like metal scraping stone, "you cannot stop what is coming." Rylan kept his tone steady. "Who ordered the attack on the Mercy Dawn?" The alien stared at him for a long time before answering. "It was not an attack," it said slowly. "It was a warning." Rylan felt anger rise in his chest. "A warning? You slaughtered doctors, children, peaceful workers." The creature blinked its red eyes. They were in the wrong place. Rylan slammed his fist on the table. "Explain." The alien leaned back. "Your ship entered a zone claimed by the Archon Dominion. A war has already begun. Not with humans. With something far worse." Rylan frowned. He had never heard that name. Archon Dominion? Who are they? The creature gave a low, shaking breath. "They are not from your galaxy. They come from beyond the Dark Line. They consume systems. They erase life. The Mercy Dawn crossed into their path. We tried to send a signal to scare it away." Rylan's voice sharpened. "You destroyed it." "Because you did not listen," the alien replied. "Because no one listens when death is coming." Rylan exchanged a look with Kira through the glass window. This did not sound like a lie. It sounded like fear. True fear. Rylan stepped closer. "If these Urchons are so dangerous, why attack us? Why not warn us?" The alien shook its head. "Humans allowed. Humans fight everything. If we told you, You would rush toward them with your weapons and die. We tried to claim the zone and push all life away. Ryland felt a cold shiver run down his spine. If the creature was telling the truth, then humanity had walked right into a much bigger disaster. Where are these urchins now? Ryland asked quietly. The creature's answer made the entire room freeze. They are already here. Before Ryland could ask another question, alarms exploded across the Titan sphere. Red lights flashed. Officers ran through the halls shouting reports. Kira burst into the chamber, breathless. Commander! We're detecting unknown ships entering the sector. They are not like any alien design we've seen. The prisoner lowered its head. They followed your scent, it whispered. Ryland rushed out of the chamber and into the bridge. The holographic screen showed several giant shapes appearing at the edge of the system. They were enormous, far larger than any ship built by humans or the earlier alien species. Their bodies were not metal but some kind of dark, shifting material that looked alive. The shapes moved without engines, as if space itself carried them forward. What are those things? An officer asked, voice shaking. Another officer zoomed in the display. The massive structures had no windows, no lights, no visible weapons, yet they looked like living monsters wrapped in armor. Ryland felt the same cold fear he had only heard about in old stories told by battlefield veterans. Kira stepped beside him. Commander, they're scanning us. The bridge fell silent. Then the enemy ship stopped. The dark surfaces opened. Not like doors, more like wounds tearing open. From inside, hundreds of smaller objects poured out, moving like swarms. They're launching fighters, someone shouted. Ryland snapped into action. Raise shields. Prepare all weapons. Fighters, launch now. The Iron Wave fleet burst into motion. Human fighters flew out in lines, engines blazing, heading straight into the unknown swarm. The aliens moved fast, far faster than normal ships should. They twisted, split, merged, and danced through the stars like shadows. The first wave struck the human fighters with terrifying precision. One pilot screamed as his ship broke apart. Another vanished in a flash. Ryland watched as red dots blinked off the battle screen. What are their weapons? Kira asked. There are no energy signatures. Then how are they killing us? Ryland demanded. Before anyone could answer, one of the Urchin swarms hit a cruiser. The entire ship dissolved into dust without even an explosion. The bridge went silent. Kira whispered, This is impossible. Ryland gripped the command chair so hard his knuckles turned white. We can't fight them head-on. Pull back. Regroup at the asteroid field. The fleet began retreating, forming defensive lines. But the Urchins followed like predators scenting prey. Ryland turned to Kira. Get me the alien prisoner. I want to know everything about these creatures. Now. But before Kira could leave, the ship shook violently as something struck the shields. The lights flickered. The engines groaned. And then a warning appeared on the screen. Something was attaching itself to the ship. Something alive. Ryland felt the fear hit his chest. This was not war. This was a hunt. And humanity was the prey. The Titan spear shook again as the strange living creature clung tighter to the hull, its dark limbs spreading across the metal like thick roots searching for a way in. Commander Ryland held onto the railing as the lights flickered again, dimming for a second before stabilizing. Report, he shouted. An officer checked her console with trembling hands. Something is draining our shields, sir. It's feeding off our energy. Ryland cursed under his breath. The Urchin creature attached to their ship was not just attacking, it was consuming them. Kira rushed into the bridge with the alien prisoner escorted by 2 guards. The creature looked weaker now, its breathing heavy, its skin even paler. The moment it saw the screen showing the Urchin swarm, its eyes widened in terror. You are already dead, it whispered. Ryland turned sharply. Not if you help us. Tell me what that thing on our hull is. The alien swallowed hard. A feeder. It eats energy. When it is full, it opens the way for the others to enter. Ryland's voice dropped to a deadly calm. How do we get it off? The alien closed its eyes. Fire will not hurt it. Bullets will not hurt it. You must cut its connection before it grows strong. The ship shook again, harder this time, throwing several officers to the floor. Panels sparked. Commander! Kira shouted. It's spreading. If it reaches the engine core, everyone knew what that meant. They would be gone in seconds. Ryland made a choice so fast he barely realized he said it. Prepare a strike team. We're going outside. Gasps filled the bridge. Kira grabbed his arm. You can't go out there. That thing is going to kill us anyway, Ryland said firmly. I won't let this ship die without a fight. Kira saw the fire in his eyes and nodded. I'll come with you. Minutes later, Ryland, Kira, and 5 armored soldiers stood in the airlock, wearing heavy magnetic suits built for dangerous repairs. The doors opened with a loud hiss, revealing the endless dark of space. They stepped out onto the metal surface of the Titan spear, their boots locking onto the hull with magnetic clicks. The view was terrifying. The Archon creature looked like a massive black flower made of shadows, its petals gripping the hull, pulsing with dark energy. As Ryland approached, the creature twitched, sensing movement. Stay sharp, he said over the comm. We don't know what the creature lunged. A long tendril shot out like a whip, striking the nearest soldier. The man screamed as the tendril wrapped around him, pulling him off the hull and into the void. His voice cut off instantly. Kira gasped. Ryland, it's hunting us. Ryland aimed his plasma cutter at the tendril and sliced it. The severed piece wiggled and shriveled before dissolving into dust. The creature recoiled with a disturbing screech that vibrated through their suits. Cut the roots! Ryland shouted. It's connected to the ship through those. The team moved fast, slicing at the dark limbs gripping the metal. Each cut made the creature thrash violently, its body pulsing with red cracks like veins filling with blood. 2 soldiers cut together at a large root. When it snapped, the creature screamed and released a shockwave. The blast knocked everyone off their feet, tossing them across the hull. One soldier's magnetic boots failed, and he slid into open space, spinning helplessly before his signal vanished. We're losing people. Kira shouted, struggling to stand. Ryland pushed himself up. Keep cutting. It's the only way. They attacked again, slicing deeper into the creature's limbs. The monster tried to fight back, but the more its roots were cut, the weaker it became. Finally, Ryland reached the central mass, a pulsing heart of black and red energy. He raised his cutter. The creature suddenly spoke. Not a sound, more like a whisper inside their minds. If I fall, the others will come. Ryland hesitated for only a second. Let them. He drove the cutter straight into the core. The creature let out a final deafening shriek, and then its entire body exploded into a cloud of dark dust that blew across the hull and vanished into space. The Titan spear shook one last time as the connection broke. The shields jumped back online. Energy levels rose. The crew cheered faintly through the comms. Ryland and Kira stood breathing heavily, staring at the space where the creature once was. Commander, the bridge called, the feeders around the other ships are weakening too. Whatever you did, it's working. But the moment relief settled in, the sensors lit up again. Hundreds of larger Archon shapes appeared at the edge of the system, far bigger than the feeders, moving like giants made of living shadow. Kira whispered, Ryland, these ones are not feeders. Ryland felt a chill crawl down his spine. Then what are they? The alien prisoner's shaking voice came through the comm. Those are hunters. The dark shapes accelerated. Fast. Too fast. Ryland looked into the stars as the massive Archon hunters closed in like a tidal wave of death. Humanity had won a small battle, but now the real war was coming. The Iron Wave fleet moved cautiously, their engines humming with tension as they approached the outer rim of the Archon Empire territory. Commander Rylan Torres watched the holographic map on the Titan spear, noting the strange patterns of movement from the enemy ships. Something felt wrong. The Archons were fast, but their formation now was almost too perfect, too precise, like they were expecting the humans to take a certain path. "Sir, sensors are showing anomalies ahead," Lieutenant Harris said, his voice tight with worry. "Gravitational spikes, energy distortions, something is manipulating the space itself." Rylan narrowed his eyes. "They're setting a trap." The fleet pressed forward anyway, knowing retreat was impossible. The Mercy Dawn attack had made humanity angry, and now nothing could stop them from striking back. Suddenly, the first Archon ships appeared from the shadows, faster and larger than before. They struck with terrifying speed, firing energy pulses that disoriented human sensors. The Iron Wave fleet attempted evasive maneuvers, but the gravitational spikes distorted their navigation, pushing ships off course. One heavy cruiser spun uncontrollably before crashing into an asteroid. Explosions lit the void like fireworks, but these were deadly, not beautiful. "Commander, we're losing ships," Kira shouted. Rylan gritted his teeth. "Hold formation. Stick to the plan. Don't panic." But even as he said it, more Archon ships dropped from the darkness above and below, cutting off escape routes. The fleet was surrounded. "Sir," Harris said, "they're not just attacking, they're corralling us. This is a kill zone." Rylan's stomach tightened. He had trained for battles, but never one like this. The enemy was not just fighting, they were hunting. The Titan spear's shields absorbed a barrage of hits, but alarms blared as energy levels dropped. "We can't hold much longer," Kira warned. "The engine cores are overheating." Rylan's mind raced. "Deploy all fighter squadrons. Protect the fleet as best you can. Use the asteroid field for cover." Fighters launched in tight formation, weaving between incoming pulses. Laser beams met alien energy, lighting up the dark space with deadly flashes. Still, the Archons advanced. Every move by the humans was predicted, every maneuver countered. "They know our tactics," Harris said, voice shaking. "They've studied us." Rylan felt a wave of fury. "Then we give them something new," he growled. He activated the Titan Spear's secret weapon, a gravity pulse emitter designed to collapse small areas of space. The plan was risky, but necessary. "Target the center of their formation," he ordered. "Fire on my mark." The fleet waited, hearts pounding, knowing that one misstep could destroy them all. The emitter charged. Energy crackled across the hull of the Titan spear, lights flickering in rhythm with the pulse. "Now!" Rylan shouted. A wave of gravity shot outward, pulling several Archon ships off course. Some collided with each other, exploding into shards of black metal and energy. For a moment, it seemed the humans had turned the tide. But then the Archons adjusted. From the edges of the trap, massive shadowed ships accelerated, faster than anything the humans had seen. They used the gravitational distortion to their advantage, flinging human fighters into the void like toys. "Commander! The outer wing is breaking!" Kira shouted. "Rally the fleet!" Rylan barked orders over the comms. "Form a circle. Protect the core ships. We fight together or we die alone." Human ships regrouped as best they could, but the weight of the trap pressed down on them. Explosions rocked the Titan spear, knocking the command bridge off balance. Panels broke, sparks flying. The alien prisoner whispered, voice trembling, "They do this to all intruders. No one survives unless they are clever." Rylan turned toward the creature. "Then tell me how to survive. Now." The alien's eyes glowed red. "The center of the trap, the energy nexus. It controls the gravity fields. Destroy it, and the trap collapses." Rylan nodded. "Understood." He turned to Kira. "Prepare a strike team. I'll lead them to the nexus. We have one chance." Kira's eyes widened. "The outer ships won't hold. It's suicide." Better to die fighting than be eaten alive, Ryland said grimly. Fighters flew in tight formations, providing cover as the strike team moved toward the center of the enemy trap. The gravitational fields pushed and pulled, making every movement a struggle. Ryland gritted his teeth, guiding the team through the distorted space. One wrong step, and they would be crushed or thrown into the void. Around them, explosions lit up the darkness, human ships destroyed in seconds. The Archons seemed to anticipate every move, every dodge. The tension was unbearable. Finally, the Titan spear reached the energy nexus, a glowing mass of black energy surrounded by massive Archon ships. Ryland raised the pulse disruptor, aiming at the core. His hands shook, sweat dripping onto the controls. "Hold position," he shouted. The enemy swarmed, trying to intercept them, but the disruptor fired. A blinding pulse erupted, tearing through the nexus. Energy waves tore through the trap, disorienting the Archons and collapsing the gravity distortions. Human ships struggled but regained control. The trap was failing. The outer wing cheered faintly as the formation of the Archons faltered. The Titan spear's hull trembled, but the crew breathed with relief. "Commander," Kira said, voice hoarse, "we survived, for now." Ryland looked out into the void, seeing the retreating shadows of the Archons regrouping at the edges. "Yes," he said quietly, "but the war is far from over. They will return. And next time, it will be worse." The Iron Wave fleet had survived the trap, but the losses weighed heavily on every human soul aboard the ships. Commander Ryland Torres stood on the bridge of the Titan Spear, staring at the broken fleet report scrolling across the holographic map. Several heavy cruisers had been destroyed, dozens of fighters lost, and countless lives sacrificed, yet the fury in the crew's eyes burned brighter than ever. Ryland's voice was calm but firm as he addressed the officers around him. "They thought they could intimidate us. They thought we would stop after Mercy Dawn. They were wrong. Humanity does not break. Humanity fights back." Kira Salas, standing beside him, nodded. "We have regrouped enough to launch a decisive strike. The Archon forces are reassembling near the outer rim. This is our chance to take the fight to them." The crew worked with precision, their fear replaced by focused determination. Every fighter, every cruiser, every pilot knew the stakes. They were not just defending themselves, they were avenging Mercy Dawn and every human life the Archons had threatened. The Titan Spear led the formation, its engines blazing as the fleet accelerated toward the enemy stronghold. The stars streaked past like silver needles, and the fleet entered the Archon territory with deadly silence. Ryland scanned the battlefield as the enemy came into view. Thousands of Archon ships waited, larger and more terrifying than ever, their forms shifting and dark, moving as one massive organism. The human pilots gripped their controls tightly, knowing this could be the final confrontation. "Lock all weapons," Ryland ordered. "Target their command cores first. Hit hard and fast." Missile bays opened on the Titan Spear, and smaller ships followed suit, releasing volleys that streaked through the void like fire. The Archon responded immediately, unleashing swarms of shadowy fighters that darted between human cruisers, tearing through hulls and shields with deadly precision. Explosions erupted, lighting the dark space with violent flashes, and debris floated in silence between bursts of laser fire. Ryland barked orders to coordinate attacks, his voice cutting through the tension. "Fighters, take the upper swarm. Cruisers, focus on the cores. Keep formation tight." The fleet obeyed, weaving and dodging, trading fire with the deadly alien ships. Yet even as they fought, the Titan Spear's sensors detected something far worse, an Archon superweapon, a massive dark structure, larger than any ship, pulsating with energy that could obliterate entire fleets. Kira's voice was tight with urgency. "Commander, that superweapon, if it fires, we're finished. It can destroy the Titan Spear in one shot." Ryland clenched his fists. "Then we destroy it first." A small strike team, led by Ryland and Kira, prepared to launch in high-speed assault pods toward the superweapon. The pods shot forward like streaks of silver, dodging the swarming fighters and deadly energy blasts. Human fighters covered their backs, engaging the enemy and creating an opening for the strike team to reach the core of the massive structure. As they approached, the true scale of the weapon became visible. It was alive in a way that defied comprehension, black and writhing, its energy flowing like rivers of shadow. The strike pods fired plasma charges at its outer hull, which absorbed some of the energy but flinched at the impact. "Keep pushing," Rylan shouted into the comms. "We can take it down before reinforcements arrive." Kira fired the pod's disruptor beams, cutting through shadow tendrils that lashed out to crush them. One pod was nearly destroyed when a massive appendage swung across, slamming into its hull. Sparks flew as the team fought back, using precise, coordinated strikes to weaken the superweapon's core. Inside the Titan Spear, Rylan monitored the energy readings, seeing the core destabilizing. "It's working," he muttered. "Core energy dropping. Keep firing." Human fighters pressed forward, delivering continuous volleys. The Archons tried to defend their weapon, but the relentless human attacks created chaos among their ranks. Ships collided, energy beams misfired, and the perfectly coordinated Archon formation began to collapse. The superweapon trembled, emitting a high-pitched wail that rattled human communications. Finally, the core exploded, sending shockwaves through the surrounding enemy fleet. The Titan Spear rocked violently, and several human ships were caught in debris, but the victory was undeniable. The remaining Archon ships panicked, retreating into the dark void from whence they came. The human fleet pursued cautiously, ensuring the Archons would not regroup quickly. As the battle ended, Rylan looked at the holographic map, seeing the devastation they had caused. His voice was low but resolute. "We fought for every life. For Mercy Dawn. For humanity. This is just the beginning. We will not stop until our people are safe." Kira placed a hand on his shoulder. "They will remember this, Rylan. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget." Rylan nodded. "And we will show them, again and again, if they dare to return." The fleet regrouped, battered but victorious, ready for the next step in humanity's war against the Archons. And in that silence, among the stars, a single truth burned brighter than any weapon: humanity had struck back, and its fury would never be tamed. The Iron Wave fleet drifted through the calm after the storm, the remains of the Archon superweapon scattered across the void, black shards floating like corpses in the dark. Commander Rylan Torres stood on the bridge of the Titan Spear, watching the fleet report the surviving ships and the battered but still alive human pilots. The toll had been high, dozens lost, hundreds wounded, but the victory was undeniable. The Archons had been forced to retreat, for now, Rylan's eyes burned with determination as he turned to Kira Salas, who stood beside him, her face pale but resolute. "This is not over," he said quietly, his voice carrying across the bridge. "They will come back, and next time they will not hesitate to strike harder." Kira nodded, understanding the weight of their words. The crew had survived a trap, fought through living alien predators, and destroyed a superweapon. Yet Rylan knew the war was far from finished. He turned to the communication officer, Leora. "Send a message to every human colony, every fleet, every outpost," he ordered. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them the Archons are coming, and humanity will be ready." The officer nodded quickly, fingers flying across the console as the message was composed, simple, clear, and full of warning, a message not of fear but of strength. "We will not bow. We will not falter. Humanity will fight, and humanity will survive." The words echoed across the fleet and out into space, reaching every corner of human territory. The survivors of Mercy Dawn, the pilots who had faced the living feeders, the soldiers who had struck the Archon superweapon, all would hear it, and all would know the stakes. Deep in the Titan Spear, Rylan activated a secure channel. The alien prisoner shackled in the brig, its red eyes watching. "You will deliver a message to your leaders," Rylan said, his tone icy. "Tell them that Earth will not be threatened. That humanity will defend itself at all costs. If they return, there will be consequences they cannot imagine." The alien shivered but said nothing, only glared, its glowing eyes full of fear and reluctant respect. Rylan stepped back and surveyed the fleet. battered but alive, ships limping home, engines smoking, yet each one carried a story of courage, a story that would be remembered across generations. Kira spoke softly, "Commander, what now? How do we prepare for the next attack?" Rylan looked out into the stars, where the dark shapes of the Archons had disappeared but would return. "We prepare," he said firmly. "We train harder, we build stronger, and we never let our guard down again. Every human must know that the Archons will pay if they ever touch another human ship." The crew felt the weight of his words, and in that silence, a collective determination rose like a tide, stronger than any fear. They had seen the enemy's power, and yet they had survived. They had fought. They had won a battle. Even if the war continued, across the bridge, the communications officer reported incoming signals, not from the Archons but from nearby colonies, messages of support, readiness. Fleets preparing to join, and civilians volunteering to help. Humanity was uniting, and Ryland felt a rare spark of hope. "Tell them," he said, "tell everyone that the Iron Wave fleet stands ready, and humanity will never be caught off guard again." As the message transmitted, across light years, humans readied themselves for every colony, every space station, every ship that had been threatened. They now knew the enemy's face, and they knew they were not alone. Ryland turned back to the holographic map of the battlefield, seeing the broken remains of the Archon forces, the blackened shards floating in silence, a reminder of what had been destroyed and what could have been lost. He clenched his fists. "This is a warning," he said aloud. "If they return, we will be waiting. And they will regret ever crossing humanity." The crew on the bridge echoed his resolve silently, every hand tightening on controls, every mind sharpened for the inevitable next attack. The alien prisoner watched, knowing that humanity had tasted war and would never back down again. As the Titan spear and the fleet began the journey back to Earth, engines glowing softly in the dark void, Rylan allowed himself one deep breath, knowing the cost of victory, the lives lost, the mercy dawn, the fighters, and yet he also knew the strength of humanity, united, fierce, and unbreakable. As the stars stretched ahead, silent witnesses to the human warning, one message now written across the void, simple and clear, the words of a species that refused to be intimidated, that would fight for every life, for every colony, and that would not forgive, that would not forget, and the Archons would remember it forever. The next war would come, but humanity would be ready.